This is the beginning of our sermon. I'm not sure why I'm the pastor. Somebody made me the pastor, and I said, okay, I'll do that because I'm supposed to. But I've made my life an effort to be a good pastor, no matter what. And so this is the beginning. This is Siapa and I at the Blessing 82, and then this is us close to now, and then this is us now, right? Grandparents. We're hoping for 12 grandchildren. I mean, we can't make more, but we're hoping for 12, right? Like the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of the Frank clan.
How close are you?
How many do you have now?
So far, we can count 10. So we're leaning on a few more. And we'll see. So why? Because number one, this is the purpose of creation. The true Father taught us when Jesus came, he couldn't get married. So he couldn't say this is the purpose of creation is marriage and then not do it, right? He couldn't do that. So we had to wait for true parents to come and then further explain what Jesus wanted to say. Didn't Jesus say specifically, I have many things to tell you now, but you can't bear them? Because what if he said that? I need to get married, but I can't get married. So that would be a tragedy for everybody. So he kept it in his heart until this time, if you ask me. Right? Baby Daisy. I love Daisy. And that's Cora and her heart dress and Maddie. And so we're going to start. So this in the year 2033, it'll be exactly 2,000 years from the resurrection of Jesus Christ to what is that? 7 years from now? That's exactly 2,000 years. And for me, that song was a great song. Because I believe I'm saved by Jesus all the time. Father taught us to pray for God's intuition. You don't have to pray for a miracle or the world to change or the sun to stop moving, but you should pray for God's intuition. And I think my life has always been like sometimes you see movies about polar bears. And the polar bear jumps from one ice floe to the next. Yeah. And that's going to and he jumps to the next. That's my life. Just jumping from one ice floe to the next. Right? This year, Easter is going to be on April 5th, so I thought we'd talk about Easter and about Jesus Christ because it is the most important element of life in the world. And I'm going to explain to you why that is. 1 Corinthians 15:45 says, and so it is written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam, meaning Jesus, became a life-giving spirit. And I believe that with 100% of our being. So let's talk about that a little bit. First off, Jesus came to teach us to love each other. And if you study psychology or sociology or now even biological science, love is the most essential aspect of your life. We know now, from the time a baby is born, the baby must receive love. Or may become damaged, or may even die if neglected or not given love. Love saves lives. We know now, support groups for cancer patients saves people's lives. So, on the other hand, many people kill themselves due to the rejection of a partner. Somebody thinks they're in love, just listen to country and Western music. Somebody thinks they're in love, and that person, that lady, or that man rejects them, and they feel so bad. They kill themselves, or many people kill others due to a cheating spouse. They kill their spouse, and it happens all the time. What's that television channel about that? Many people turn to drugs and or alcohol when they cannot find love. It's clear, right? Sibling rivalry causes immense pain. The child perceives the parent loves another child more, and then they're wrecked. Their life becomes wrecked. Jesus taught us, so what's the answer? Jesus' words. Jesus taught us to love and forgive one another. And that's the most essential element of our lives, is the love of our life. You know, we used to always say, we still believe this. Even if a house of people are rich, but they don't have love, they're still miserable. Isn't that so? Just look at Hollywood movie stars. So here's a book that's interesting. I read this book. It's called Useful Delusions. It's about delusions that may help you. And he considers Christianity one of them. But let me read this to you. It says, from the book Useful Delusions, an obsession with the afterlife is not unique to ancient Egypt. Every religious tradition holds some sort of belief about our life, about our faith after we die. For centuries, philosophers, scientists have delved into the question of why religion exists and how it became so pervasive in the human world. Why does, all religions, all nations, all groups believe in life after death, especially if you're farmers. Karl Marx, on the other hand, saw religion as the opiate of the people. And that's a giant kind of poison in the world today, right? Because Marx didn't love anybody. He didn't believe in love. He didn't believe in the family. And he was a horrible human being who watched his children die of starvation instead of getting a job. Who else? Sigmund Freud once called religious belief a universal obsessional neurosis. But you shouldn't listen to him. You know what? He was incestuous in his relationship with his niece. Why would you listen to him? Why would anybody think what he had to say made any sense at all? Who's left? Richard Dawkins and members of the New Atheist movement describe religious faith as delusions. And they have a kind of thing where they say, since miracles are impossible, there's no such thing as miracles. Even if you showed me a miracle, I wouldn't believe it, right? Because it's just circular thinking. It's not true. It's not following the evidence. So, on the other hand, real delusions like addictions and neuroses and delusions imply sickness or dysfunction. On the other hand, when Christians do it, here, so hallucinations generally comprise disorderly events with hazy visions. On the other hand, so this is still from the book, he actually recognizes there's some validity to Christian visions. Spiritual experience with the Spirit of Jesus Christ generally comprise orderly events with clear perceptions. Right? My experience with Jesus, I still remember it. Hallucinations usually leave their subjects feeling disturbed and agitated. Spiritual experience with the resurrected Jesus usually leave their subjects feeling peaceful and serene and with a positive direction in their life and feel a new life, like me, right? Hallucinations have a little noteworthy long-term effect on the subjects. However, spiritual experience with Jesus Christ are often profoundly life-transforming, inspiring the subjects toward a more purposeful and spiritual reorientation of beliefs and lifestyle. So I thought I'll go over some of those that are undisputably true. So you can have confidence. So we say, Jesus is still alive. And this is really important to me. Anyway, Jesus is still alive and still working miracles. And still intervening in people's lives. Still saving people in prison. Still converting Muslims to Christianity. Still doing all those things. Just watch them on YouTube. Just go see it. Right? So, but here's another one. Acts 9, the Damascus Road, Saul was converted by a spiritual experience with Jesus Christ. Then Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord. So what's Paul like? He wants to murder people. He wants to kill Christians. Right? Went to the high priest and asked letters from him to the synagogues of Damascus so that he found any who were in the way, Christian way, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem to be killed. Right? He was a murderer. As he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light shone around him from heaven. Then he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, Who are you, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus whom you are persecuting. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. So he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what do you want me to do? And the Lord said to him, Arise and go into the city, and you will be told what to do. So what does he do? And the men who journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice but seeing no one. Then Saul arose from the ground. When his eyes were opened, he saw no one. But they led him by hand and brought him to Damascus. He was struck blind. And he was 3 days without sight, and neither ate nor drank. And now there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias, and to him the Lord said in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Here I am, Lord. So the Lord said to him, Arise and go to the street called Straight, and inquire at the house of Judas, for one called Saul of Tarsus. For behold, he is praying. And in a vision he has seen a man named Ananias coming in and putting his hand on him, so he might receive his sight. So Jesus tells Ananias, go do this, and Paul's waiting for you, or Saul is waiting for you. He's waiting for you to put a hand on him to receive his sight again. So he sees that, and what happens is he has a spiritual experience, and he goes from being a murderer of Christians and a hater of Christians, and suddenly he now loves all the Christians. And he becomes a Christian, and he becomes a leader of the Christians. Right? Is there any historical evidence that Paul was a real person? Yes. Evidence for the reality of Paul comes from the dozens of writers who quoted him within a generation of his death. People who knew him, people who talked to him, quoted him. We know who they are, right? Every single Christian source agrees that he was a real person. Clement mentioned Paul in the 1st century. Peter mentioned Paul in the 1st century. Ignatius, Polycarp, and many others, late 1st century and early 2nd century writers mentioned Paul. That they could have been duped about the existence of the most important leader in all of Christianity, while people who were alive when Paul was alive, is beyond the possibility of belief. Here's the point. Did Paul have a real experience that changed him? Absolutely. There's no question or doubt about it. A miraculous experience happened, and now he loves Christians instead of hates Christians. His biography completely changes, right? There is not a single example of an opponent of Christianity in the first 2 or 3 centuries who doubted his reality. It would have been like doubting that Seneca or Ovid or Cicero lived. Bart Ehrman, one of the biggest critics of the reliability of the Bible, has debated unscholarly atheists who claim that Paul is not real and struggle to not laugh at his atheist friends for making a foolish and unfounded claim that Paul was not a real person. So here's the point. Paul was a real person. He had a real vision of Jesus that changed his life entirely. Just like you and me. Right? Just like you and me. Because Paul was visited by Jesus as a life-giving spirit. For, this is what Paul says, for I neither received it from man, nor was I taught it, but came through the revelation of Jesus Christ. There is irrefutable evidence of St. Paul's conversion experience. St. Paul testified at the cost of his imprisonment, beatings, and eventual death that Jesus had come to him. He never doubted it, no matter what. If you read his biography, he was beaten, he was tortured, he had been imprisoned, everything, right? He never doubted. And beyond Paul, Jesus had appeared to many. Even to people in this room, right? Hasn't Jesus appeared to you? Appeared to me, right? And more importantly, lives have been changed, raised up from misery to glory. And several of the churches founded by Paul, that, by the way, still exist. The ones he founded. For example, listen to this. The most notable would be the Church of Thessalonica, which has existed continuously from the 1st century. Does that sound like it was a delusion to you? The city of Corinth was demolished by the Romans and relocated in 146, but the Christian community associated with the city has persisted to the present day. Remember the letters to Corinth? The city of Ephesus went through several catastrophic events over the centuries and was finally abandoned completely in the 15th century. However, the church of Laodicea still exists in the modern city of Nizali. While not traditionally founded by Paul, the churches of Smyrna, Philadelphia, and Thyatira also still exist. So the experience of Paul, the results of his experience still exist. People are still there believing, right? Again, it was written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit. So we think this, resurrection does not mean physical resurrection of your body. Might mean that in some cases, Lazarus or Jesus. However, St. Paul received a new life of love. And that's what we're talking about in this relationship. Instead of murdering Christians, he was teaching, healing, and loving others. And isn't love the most important aspect of our life? If you weren't receiving love, would you still be happy? Would you still do the things you're doing? Without love, our life becomes meaningless. What happened to Paul? He became a person who taught love to everybody. I like Paul's teaching, right? It also means spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, and the will to do goodness resurrection. So today I want to speak about and elucidate the resurrection of emotion, or centrally, heart and love, because that's what's most important to everybody on earth. 1 John 3:14, we know that we have passed from death to life because we love the brethren. He who does not love his brother abides still is dead. Right? Our idea of love and our idea of life are synonymous terms. Right? Don't they say in New York City, get a life if you don't have any love? Philippians, 1 Paul and Timothy, bondservants of Jesus Christ. To all the saints in Christ Jesus who are in Philippi, which is the bishops and deacons, and this I pray, that your love may abound still more and more in knowledge and all discernment, that you may approve the things that are excellent, that you may be sincere and without offense till the day of Christ's return. Right? That's the whole point of Christianity. That's the whole point of Jesus meeting Jesus Christ. Being filled with the fruits of righteousness which are by Jesus Christ to the glory and praise of God. So there's no question Paul received his message from Jesus Christ, if you ask me. In the memoir of the Roman emperor that Eusebius wrote after Constantine's death, a miraculous appearance is said to have come in Gaul long before the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. In this later version, the Roman emperor had been pondering the misfortunes that befell commanders who invoked the help of many different gods and started to seek divine aid in the forthcoming battle from the one God. At noon, Constantine saw a cross of light imposed over the sun. Attached to it in Greek characters was a saying, "In this conquer." Not only Constantine, but the whole army saw the miracle. This is what it looks like, the Cairo, right? Cairo pops. That night, Christ appeared to the Roman emperor in a dream and told him to make a replica of the sign he had seen in the sky, which would be a sure defense in battle. So that's what there's an ancient Roman emblem that Constantine made. I'll show you why this is important, right? Is there concrete evidence of Jesus' visitation to Constantine? Did he really do it? Is this just a story somebody made up? No, this is real history, by the way. It's real history. Yes, he changed the entire Roman government, and I'll show you how. Christians suffered from sporadic and localized persecutions over a period of 2.5 centuries. Their refusal to participate in the imperial cult, Greek gods, whatnot, was considered an act of treason and was thus punishable by execution. If you read this next paragraph, you think this is what's going on in Japan, by the way. Watch. The most widespread official persecution was carried out by Diocletian beginning in 303. During the Great Persecution, the emperor ordered Christian buildings and the homes of Christians torn down, their sacred books collected and burned. Doesn't that sound like Japan right now? The reason I make this point is Christians weren't doing anything bad, and neither was their church. Some people think probably our church deserved to be torn down and sold out. No, it's not true. Satan has been an enemy of our church from the beginning, from Jesus, right? Christians were arrested, tortured, mutilated, burned, starved, and condemned to gladiatorial contests to amuse spectators. Emperor Diocletian, 283 to 305, began the Diocletianic persecution, which was the final and most severe wave of persecution of Christians by the Roman state. It was enforced until when? After Constantine the Great in 306, right? He existed until 305. 306 defeated his rival Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in October 312. He and his co-emperor Licinius issued an edict of Milan which decriminalized Christianity. So Constantine has this vision of Jesus, defeats his enemy, and then says, we should all become Christians now. Does that sound like a coincidence to you? No, it's not a coincidence. Constantine wasn't having a delusion. He had real power from Jesus Christ. How do we know any of this really happened? Because Jesus changed Rome. Rome changed. Rome stopped. After Constantine, the Cairo became the part of the official imperial insignia. Right? This became, you can't read it because it's not clear enough, but this was a coin, a Roman coin with the Jesus Cairo on it. Right? After Constantine, the Cairo became a part of the official imperial insignia. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence demonstrating that the Cairo was emblazoned on the helmets of some late Roman soldiers. Coins and medallions minted during Emperor Constantine's reign also bore the Cairo symbol. He had a real vision, and it changed the world, right? When people have these visions, it's not a hallucination. Hallucinations don't change the world, do they? A direct result of Constantine's 4th century vision is the creation of hospitals. Isn't that amazing? The Romans did not have dedicated public hospitals. Public hospitals per se did not exist until the Christian period, right? Towards the end of the 4th century, the Second Medical Revolution took place with the founding of the first Christian hospital in the Eastern Byzantine Empire by St. Basil of Caesarea. And within a few decades, such hospitals have become ubiquitous in Byzantine society. The hospital would undergo development and progress throughout Byzantine, medieval European, and Islamic societies from the 5th to the 15th century. European exploration brought hospitals to colonies in North America, Africa, and Asia. Early Chinese and Japanese hospitals were established by Western missionaries in the 19th century. Isn't that amazing? So we're saying from Jesus' opinion or words or visions, then Japan gets hospitals. Is that good? Is that a good thing? Yeah, well, how fabulous. Our Japanese brothers and sisters are alive now because of that. Because Constantine had a vision of Jesus that changed Rome, made Christians legal. The Christians then built hospitals to take care of the poor, which went to the entire world to save everybody in it. That's a great vision, right? That's a great change. Let's see. During World War I, World War II, many military hospitals and hospital innovations were created. In the late 1900s and 21st century, hospital networks and government and health organizations were formed to manage groups. Have anybody here been saved, your life saved by going to a hospital?
Oh, yeah.
Then you have to really think about this. Your life was saved because Constantine had a vision of Jesus Christ who changed Rome and allowed hospitals to be invented by Christians. You were saved by the vision of Constantine at the Milvian Bridge. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, yeah.
Think about that. Is that real or not? You're saved. You're alive because of that vision. Right? For example, like Mercy Hospital in San Diego. I was born in Mercy Hospital. With nuns, there were still nuns when I was born. Still nuns. So, is there evidence of Jesus' personality meeting with people and transforming our world to God's will? I'll give you one more. Let's see. In the late 1700s, when William Wilberforce was a teenager, English traders raided the African coast on the Gulf of Guinea, captured between 35,000 and 50,000 Africans every year, shipped them across the Atlantic and sold them into slavery. It was a profitable business that many powerful people have become dependent on. You should understand this. We don't have slaves anymore, right? Is it for economic reasons that slavery was changed?
No.
No, it wasn't. One publicist for the West Indies trade wrote, the impossibility of doing without slaves in the West Indies will always prevent this traffic being dropped. The absolute necessity of carrying it on must be, since there's no other but be to excuse. That in the 1700s, the economics of slavery were so entrenched that only a handful of people thought anything could be done about it. That handful included William Wilberforce. So the point is, slavery did not fade out due to poor economics. Slavery ended by moral power and authority from the love and intervention of Jesus Christ into the British government through William Wilberforce. Right? Let's read about William Wilberforce. William Wilberforce meets the life-giving spirit of Jesus Christ and ends slavery. I'll show you. Wilberforce began to reflect deeply on his life, which led to a period of intense sorrow. He was born rich, born wealthy, and from the early part of his life, he was a playboy, gambler, drinker, alcoholic. He did all those bad things. Something happened to him when then he realized, I'm just wasting my life here. Right? So then what happens is, he says, I am sure that no human creature could suffer more than I did for some months. He later wrote, his unnatural gloom lifted on what date? Easter of 1786. Amongst the general chorus with which all nature seems on such a morning to be swelling the song of praise and thanksgiving, he had experienced a spiritual rebirth with a vision of Jesus Christ. Isn't that amazing? He says so. He abstained from alcohol and practiced rigorous. Didn't you guys abstain from alcohol when you met our true parents? He abstained from alcohol and practiced rigorous self-examination as befit, he believed, a serious Christian. William Wilberforce was a parliamentarian and man about town when he became convinced of the truth of Christianity. Upon his conversion, he thought he should withdraw from the parliament. But Pastor John Newton, who had also had a vision of Jesus Christ, author of the beloved hymn Amazing Grace, convinced him otherwise. And it convinced him that God had placed him in Parliament for some useful purpose, about the wise old pastor who had been a slaver in his wild youth. In particular, two causes caught his attention. First, under the influence of Thomas Clarkson, he became absorbed with the issue of slavery. Later he wrote, so enormous, so dreadful, so irremediable did the trade's wickedness appear that my own mind was completely made up for abolition. Let the consequences be what they would, I from this time determined that I would never rest until I effected its abolition. His anti-slavery efforts eventually bore fruit. In 1807, Parliament abolished the slave trade in the British Empire. He then worked to ensure the slave trade laws were enforced, and finally that slavery in the British Empire was abolished. Wilberforce's health prevented him from leading the last charge, though he heard 3 days before he died the final passage of the Emancipation Bill was ensured by committee. What happened? We have no slaves now, right? Isn't that great?
Yes.
Don't we feel wonderful? How did it take place? A vision of Jesus Christ to William Wilberforce and John Newton. A vision of Jesus Christ caused slavery to end. That sounds like some crazy hallucination or delusion? So what we're seeing is Jesus visiting people over and over again, and the world changed for better over and over again. Isn't that what we're seeing? They're not delusions. Britain's war against the slave trade. So Britain eventually went to war against slavers. And they patrolled the Atlantic Ocean, and anybody they caught with slaves, they arrested and put them in jail. The West Africa Squadron, also known as the Preventive Squadron, was a squadron of the British Royal Navy whose good goal was to suppress the Atlantic slave trade by patrolling the coast of West Africa. Formed in 1808 after the British Parliament passed the slave trade in 1807, over the course of operations, it managed to capture about 6% of the transatlantic slave ship that freed some 150,000 Africans. Between 1830 and 1865, over 17,000 sailors died during duty with the squadron, principally of disease. But they still did it. Listen to what they thought of it. If you were on the squadron, the accounts of those men who sailed in the West Africa Squadron only encouraged support from the anti-slavery initiative. The public eagerly followed up on the stories of the liberation of slaves by the Navy, and by the mid-19th century, around 25 ships and 2,000 sailors were based at the squadron's station, though approximately that many also died while on duty with the squadron. Nevertheless, the job of a squadron member became a celebrated one that Brits back home commended with reverence and respect. If you were on that squadron, people think you're a hero for saving African Americans from being slaves. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
This is real Christianity. This is why I'm a Christian, and this is why we should believe these things are true, right? Some of the crew members in the squadron were themselves of African descent, and by 1845, around 1,000 experienced African fishermen were involved. So the African themselves noticed this and said, yeah, we love the British squadron. Isn't that amazing? Why should we understand and share this? Because this is a real, visible experience with the life-giving Spirit of Jesus Christ that has visual, measurable, and beneficial effects on society. Right? People who take LSD never, come and save anybody. Sorry. I know a lot of them. I grew up. Anyway.
That's true.
This is not the result of hallucination. And this is real evidence. And there's a million other people. These are ones whose history is uncontested. Yes, absolutely these things took place. So, we say, anyway, I thought I got rid of this slide, but it's still here. Refuse to die. All growth happens by stages. Everything grows by stages. Plants start from a single seed, then a seedling, then a young plant, then a mature plant, right? Our bodies grow in growth with what? The same single-cell zygote, fetus, infant, child, adolescent, teenager, adult, right? And then a mature adult. We're trying to be mature adults, right? There aren't immature adults. I'm not going to name names. Resurrection of intellect happens by the same stages. Jesus and Christians reveal the truth of God's creation, right? Galileo discovers and creates metrology. Protestantism, Tycho Brahe and Johannes Kepler become the great astronomers. So some people say, well, the Catholic Church didn't like Galileo, so the church was against. No, it's not true. The Protestant Church accepted Galileo 100%. Tycho Brahe and Johannes Kepler then fulfilled his dream and measured the planets more accurately. And then Rene Descartes is, by the way, strong Catholic. He fasted for 40 days in prayer to discover, you remember that word? Ipsum ergo
I think therefore I am.
Ergo, what is the word? Anyway, that's what it means. I think therefore I am. Because he came to the realization that he's alive because of God. He's a very strong Catholic. He created analytical geometry, which went to Isaac Newton, who made modern physics. The laws of gravity are based on Descartes' ideas and Tycho Brahe and Kepler's ideas. Laws of motion, laws of light, and then Francis Bacon codified Newton's methods, giving us the scientific method. Isn't that amazing? Comes 100% straight from the Bible, which I like. So you might think, well, that's great. No more slaves. Everyone has equal rights. Wonderful. But what's that got to do with me? I mean, I'm glad I'm not a slave, but do you guys really care? You should. Because Jesus revolutionized the value of love. And especially, he revolutionized the value of love in your family. If you're loved by your parents, you were saved because your parents loved you. Because of true parents who are true parents because of Jesus Christ. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Love God. Jesus taught us, love God, love your neighbor, love your spouse, love your children. That's Jesus' words. And that's what, aren't we trying to do that? We're not following Marx, or we're not following, who's the other one I mentioned? Anyhow, the Good Samaritan story has saved millions of lives. Haven't you heard this Good Samaritan story? Saved, drove up, lady's car broke down, she's going to freeze to death. Some guy comes by and helps her, saves her life, because of the Good Samaritan story. Recognizing the value of children comes from Jesus Christ. My parents divorced. As a child, I was bouncing around between parents, relatives. Literally, I didn't have a home until I was 42. I didn't, because the church is the same as my parents. I never lived in a house for more than 9 months until I was 42 years old. Isn't that amazing? Nevertheless, so I really, really, really disliked the idea of family and all those things. I was really angry and upset. But then I read Jesus. I recognized my experience with Jesus saved my life physically and spiritually, and has blessed me and my family beyond all expectations. So my relationship with Jesus is a real relationship. And if you look at me now, if you looked at me before, if you knew when I was 19, I had determined, you don't have to record this, but I had determined to kill somebody and go down in a blaze of glory. That's what I had determined. Then I met Jesus Christ. And then I forgave all my enemies. Thank you. I recognize the value of good parenting and the well-being of a child. So from Jesus, then I understood this is what my goal in life is. To be a good parent. To be a better parent to my children than my parents were to me. Right? That was my goal and determination based on the Gospels and Jesus Christ. So Jesus taught us what? I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Don't we all want parents who will never leave us? Don't we? I do. My parents left me. They sent me away many times. I understood how painful that is to not have someone who loves you. Jesus promises to love you forever and never leave you, no matter what. A little while longer and the world will see me no more, but you will see me, because I live, you will live also. At that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He who has my commandments and keeps them, it is he who loves me. And he who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him and manifest myself to him forever. Isn't that what we all want in our life? That's what Jesus means. That's what Jesus' visions mean. That's what a life-giving spirit means. That God's going to love you and love you forever. That's what the early Christians understood. Go ahead, kill my body. I'm going to go be with Jesus. It's all right. Kill me. The spirit world is better. Jesus taught us this. Children are the value of heaven, not buildings, not money, not properties. Loving children is the work of God. Right? And we are all God's children regardless of our age. Even 80-year-old children here in the room are God's children. We all need love to grow. Let me read that again. We all need love to grow. That's absolute. Now that's social science, by the way. It's not just Christianity. Humans need love like plants need sunshine. Loneliness is painful. To feel unloved or rejected by love causes people to hurt others and hurt themselves. So Jesus' words are absolute life-saving words. Jesus is a life-giving spirit. It is human nature to not want to be unloved, right? Because God is love. So, Jesus expressed love to everyone around him, through the love of touch. And this is really important to me because we need to. I know our church is like anti-touch, right? I know we're really anti-touch. Don't touch me. I'm from Japan. Don't touch me. Sorry, Japanese brothers and sisters, but that's true, right? They always feel weird. Because we're so afraid of chapter 2 that we would never hold hands or touch each other, or we would be the van or the witnessing center. Or, oh, you go over there, right? We would never. Sister touched an apple. The brother would never touch it. Oh, right? Or something like that. But that was only temporary. That was only temporary till we could grow up. For example, a man with leprosy came and knelt before Jesus and said, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." What did Jesus do? Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. Jesus says, "I am willing." He said, "Be clean." Immediately he was cured of his leprosy. The whole world was terrified of lepers, right? Remember, we had a COVID pandemic.
Yes.
Everybody stay away from each other by at least 6 feet. Don't go to school, you're gonna die. When Jesus came to Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her. She got up and began to wait on him. God bless her. For those of you who don't believe in miracles of healing, here's a book you ought to read. I brought it for you so you can look through it, but it's library. It's called The Case for Miracles. That miracles really do happen. It's amazing. If you don't believe in miracles, you're not really reading a lot. The Case for Miracles, a journalist investigates evidence for the supernatural healing of people. It examines the possibility that God intervenes in everyday life, addressing accounts of God's divine action, scientific studies about prayer, and new polling on various aspects of miracles. Here's one of the things he discovered. Perhaps the most surprising result of the survey is that a majority of doctors, 55%, said that they have seen treatment results in their patients that they would consider miraculous. That is, somebody has cancer, that you're going to die in 3 months, but the guy refuses to die. And then heals and has what's called, they don't call it a miracle. They had to change the name to spontaneous remission of cancer. But it's a miracle, right? So, but they couldn't say it's a miracle because it would sound like they're Christians, so they call it spontaneous remission. So they did a survey, and in this you can read, there's a survey of doctors. And thus, of the 1,100 physicians examined, 605 claimed to have witnessed a medical miracle. Because their patient would come in and his knee would heal by prayer.
Thank you.
Or whatever it was, or cancer, or whatever, all kinds of things. Most physicians pray for their patients as a group. Even more, 59% pray for individual patients. Isn't that amazing? They don't tell you they're praying for you, but they might be praying for you. Talk to your doctor next time. Anyway, read the book. There's tons of information. And many doctors will say, yes, that was a miracle. The church prayed for this guy, he's healed, and yes, I'm a doctor, and I say it's a miracle. Read it. Look it up. When he had gone indoors, the blind men came to him, and they asked him, "Do you believe that I'm able to do this?" "Yes, the Lord," they replied. Then he touched their eyes and said, "According to your faith will it be done to you," and their sight was restored. But that's the trick, isn't it? Do you have faith? God will heal you. Do you? And by the way, in the book you can read people who were blind got healed. And doctors considered it a miracle. We don't know how it could happen. It's not possible, but it is possible. It happened. When the disciples heard this, they fell face down to the ground, terrified. And then Jesus came and touched them. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid." My point is, they're terrified. This is after the crucifixion. They're terrified. And Jesus comes and touches them. "Don't worry. It's okay. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to save you." 2 blind men were sitting by the roadside. When they heard that Jesus was going by, they shouted, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." The crowd rebuked them and told them to be quiet, but they shouted all aloud, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." Jesus stopped and called them. "What do you want me to do for you?" he asked. "Lord," he answered, "we want our sight." This is a really important point. They're saying, "Save me, save me." And Jesus asked them, "Well, what do you want me to do for you?" He knows what they want, right? In your prayer, you have to ask God or request from God, "Please, God, do this." And then God can answer your prayer. But if you say, "Please do something to me," It's not the same thing. Lord, the answer, we want our sight. Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. After he took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers in this guy who couldn't hear. Then he spit and touched the man's tongue. He looked up to heaven with a deep sigh and said to him, I can't pronounce that word, it means be open. At this, the man's ears were open, his tongue was loosened, and he began to speak plainly. I like it because Jesus uses spit. I always think that's really interesting to me. I'll tell you why in a minute.
Come over here.
My favorite is where Jesus heals a blind person with spit. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. Where when he had spit on the man's eyes, put his hands on him and asked, "Do you see anything? Do you see anything yet?" And he looked up and said, "I see people, but they look like trees walking around." Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were opened, his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. This has always been one of my favorite things. You know, and this is why I always say this. Some of you people have been around and heard me say this before. Who heals you or cleans you with spit? Who?
Mother?
Only your mother does. When I was a little boy and I would go to school, and my mother would drive us to school, and she would get and she'd look at she'd grab me like that. "Oh, you're dirty," and she would spit on her finger, and then wipe off egg yolk or whatever's on my face, right, or some crumbs. Or then she'd get a cloth and spit on it, and then she would wash my face, right? That's what this reminds me of. Only your parent, only someone who loved you like you're one flesh with you. It doesn't bother you, mother does it because you're one flesh with your mother. So Jesus is saying, I'm one flesh with you. Let me touch you. Let me touch you with my spit or whatever, right? And don't we feel the same thing about true parents? Father has John Kenny. Don't you have a whole box of things that Jesus touched and Father touched and you saved them? Because of the same thing. So you might ask, what's your point, Pastor Frank? Here it is. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them. Jesus is a being of compassion and love. Do you think when Julius Caesar saw crowds, he had compassion on them? Do you think Alexander the Great saw crowds and he wanted to kill them all? Most people don't have compassion on crowds. I always drive around them myself. But he had compassion on them, and because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. And when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. Immediately they received their sight and followed him. So this idea of compassion, right? Jesus gave words of love to people. Jesus fed them. Jesus touched them. Jesus loved and trusted them. Therefore the apostles became reborn. They weren't the old crazy fishermen who didn't love anybody. They actually really cared about people then. Saved people, did miracles to save people. Resurrected back to life. This is the beginning of resurrection on earth that eventually leads to the benefits of life we have today. This is what it means to us. You have the chance to love somebody too. You have the chance to become life-giving spirits yourself. Ourselves, right? So here's what this means. Latest research reveals the more you hug your kids, the smarter they get. Jesus' words are now social science. The study included 125 babies, both premature and full term, and looked specifically at how they responded to being physically touched. Babies that were subjected to more affection by their parents. Isn't that Jesus? Isn't that what divine principle says for you're supposed to do? Babies that were subjected to more affection by parents or hospital staff showed stronger brain response. They found that a baby's earliest experiences of being touched shaped the somatosensory brain scaffolding linked to cognitive, perceptual, and social development. In another study, researchers found that touching and caressing has a strong calming and healing effect. Didn't Jesus touch people and they were healed? Didn't these doctors touch people and they were healed? They understood this. He has a healing effect. Because love is not nothing. Love is a force like gravity is a force. Love is a force like light energy is a force. Love is a force of goodness for you. When you feel loved, your heart's full, your body will heal itself. When you feel lonely and miserable and alone, then your body doesn't heal. According to researcher Dr. Nathalie Maitre This tells us that something as simple as body contact or rocking a baby in your arms will make a big difference in how their brains develop. Not to mention how their spirit develops, blue letters in mind. Making sure that preterm babies receive positive supportive touch, such as skin-to-skin care by parents, is essential to help their brains respond to gentle touching, very similar to those babies who experience an entire pregnancy inside their mother's womb. So a premature baby who feels loved and touched and kissed and hugged and sing songs to, he grows the same as a child who had full 9 months in the mother's womb. Who's she reporting this to? Major tells us to Science Daily. So Jesus' ideas of loving kids, holding them, singing them, kissing them, is now science. It took 2,000 years for them to catch up to Jesus' words. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
It is amazing. You should understand this. Basically, affection is vital for the development of the brain. So cuddle and hug your babies as much as you can, and don't forget to share this research to show everyone out there how important it is to be loving to our children and to our husbands and to our wives, even if they're 8 years old. In America, there are many teenage gangs. One sociologist made a survey of gangs which showed that more than 90% of kids in those gangs have never heard the words, "I love you," from their parents. We as parents think, of course we love you, you're my child, that's obvious, but it's not obvious to your children sometimes. Here's what we teach. Jesus undoubtedly appeared to Paul with beneficial effects to the whole world. Jesus undoubtedly appeared to Constantine with beneficial effects to the whole world. Jesus undoubtedly appeared to William Wilberforce with beneficial effects to the whole world. And finally, Jesus undoubtedly appeared to Reverend Mrs. Moon with beneficial effects to the whole world, including us. Because what do true parents teach? They teach, why do you have a physical body anyway? Why do you even exist? Divine Principle says your physical body is necessary for your spirit to grow to eternal love. Our spirit body grows in the soil of our physical body. That is why Jesus came in the flesh, not in the spirit. This is why true parents must come in physical form on earth, not just in the spirit. Because your physical body is essential for you to create love on earth. And your physical body is necessary for you to create, and real love is raising your children in true love. Right? Again, Jesus and the Holy Spirit. These are Father's words. The most important, valuable way to live is to follow the way of truth-giving, serving, and loving. You have to know that clearly. God is an absolute being, and He has to protect anyone living this way. I know that clearly. That is why I could survive all these years. I understand the laws of original existence, and I am following those laws. So no matter how much opposition comes against me or how difficult the atmosphere, it is no problem. I will continue following the way of truth. Dude, that's us, right? They're attacking Japan. This is really Damien Dunkley's message, but his father's message first, and it's Jesus' message before Father. This is what we're doing. We're still loving. Love is real. Love saves lives. Many people kill themselves due to the rejection of a partner, so let's not reject anybody. Let's not reject your old husband or your old wife, right? Sibling rivalry causes immense pain when a child doesn't perceive love from their parent. Jesus taught us to love and forgive others. Ephesians 5 says this, walk in love. Therefore, be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given Himself up for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for the sweet-smelling aroma. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. For we are members of His body, of His flesh, and of His bones. For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become. So Jesus' message, true Father's message is this: love each other as God has loved you. That's why this is important. The cornerstone of the principle of creation, the purpose of creation is family. Love eternal. Family love from your individual family to the entire human race as family. Love your neighbor as yourself means becoming one with all others in a relationship of love, such as friendship, such as erotic love between husband and wife, parental love, filial piety. Basically, affection is vital for the development of the brain. So cuddle, hug your babies, children, family, husbands, wives. Don't forget to share this research to show everyone out there how important it is for loving your children. Jesus' words. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. God bless you. Thank you for hearing me. I appreciate it.